This week we touched on digital literacy and what it means to be digitally literate. I feel like in class we kind of did steer off in making it seem like digital literacy is just knowing how to use a phone or technologies, but it's not only about how you use the technology, but it's about how you use the media within the technology, such as Microsoft Office or any Adobe, the Adobe Creative Cloud. And I feel like when it comes to being literate in any subject, whether it be history, English, math, anything like that, it progresses over time. When my parents were in school, it was just read, write, arithmetic. Now when I was in high school, it's like we have this, we have business, we have economics, we have different levels of math that my parents would have never thought of reaching. And, that's just progression over time. Everything progresses and becomes more complex as time goes on. But I feel like with media, meaning programs and technology, it's growing at such a fast pace that a lot of people do get frustrated or do tend to get left behind. And a lot of people also have negative viewpoints about these things. I did personally talk about my mom and how she has a smart TV, she has a smartphone, and she has a laptop. She has all this stuff, but she doesn't know how to use it to save her life. And that's one thing we talked about, is just because you have access doesn't mean you're digitally literate. And, she, at first, when all these new technologies came out, she's like, oh, cool, I want it, da, 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 da. She got it, and, it was easier when she first started getting, she got her first touch screen, I think it was in 2013. Before that, she had a BlackBerry, and she had the same BlackBerry for 5 years. And, when she first got that phone, it was easier for her because she had us with her. One of us was always there with her. I went to school, so, I worked at the school. She worked at the school I went to, so I was always with her. So if she had a question, she knew I was there to answer it. Because I grew up with technology. I grew up with the levels of evolution that it's come with. And so it's easier for me to adapt to something new because I know how to figure it out. But, now with her, she finally got a smart TV about 2 years ago, and I'm in college. I can't be there helping her. And it's something so simple as turning the Wi-Fi on the computer on so that she can watch Netflix is the task of the century. It's so hard for her. And I feel like that gap of knowledge, I don't want to say it's a generational gap because I see it in generation because, I'm just looking at it from my family and my standpoint of the people that I'm with all the time. But, after our discussion, it's just, it's a global thing, having to, in the lower income communities or countries like Africa, like we talked about, that stuff is not really available to them. So it's hard for them to become digitally literate. But I feel like that gap of digital literacy is going to get bigger because of the rate technology and media is evolving. Like I said before, math, history, techniques when it comes to writing have all evolved over time. And people have done well at adapting to those. Some people have difficulties, which is always understandable, but technology is growing at an unprecedented rate to where, there's always an update. There's always something new. And if you don't know how to adapt to that or at least figure out how to do it, it makes it difficult for you. Another thing we talked about was, the big conversation on Thursday was, is Google making us stupid? And, that is something I feel is an opinion. But based on, Google and the research and stuff like that, and the article about the teachers, I can see people's different viewpoints about it. It's when we talked about knowledge, and knowledge is taking forms of information and creating that memory in your brain, that final piece. I I feel like it's easier. Back in what's the difference from now? And we talked about this. What's the difference from now and back in the day, when back in the day they used to go and talk to people to get information, or they finally had things written down in books and had records of things, and you had to go and find the book that held that information. And then it got easier to do that because then I think it's called the Dewey Decimal System. How the libraries are organized. You look something up on the Dewey Decimal System. I hope that's what it's called. And you